Okay, Hi. Oh, I've done it all wrong. Hi. I had a parcel through the post today. I was going to do one of my unboxing ones, but I was too eager to open it up, so I've opened it up and I've thrown the packaging away. But I saw it on Amazon. I'll go on Amazon if they've got a good deal. I'll hold my hand up. And this was a very good deal. It's normally 14.99, but it had it for £7.50. Rebellion, who published 2000 AD, they also have the complete back catalogue library of Fleetway comics, IPC comics, going back to wartime, to Second World War time. And so what they've been doing, they've launched a series of graphic novels under the banner, the family title, house banner of Treasury of British Comics. And this story here is from a comic called Thunder, which was an IPC comic or Fleetway comic in the late 60s to early 70s. And it's just wonderful. It's so camp. It's just completely bonkers. But I bought it. One, it's a fun read. It's what I like about British comics in the 70s and 60s. They condense the storytelling much more. So if you got a comic issue of Daredevil or Spider-Man from the 60s, you'd be bombarded with paragraphs of writing. Not the case with British comics. It's verbose. It's not like we write it nowadays, but it's much more diluted than what American comics were. So, because they let the frames tell the story much more than American comics did. I think because they only had like a few pages for each strip each week, so they had to do that to keep your attention, to keep you focused and following the story. And I never read Thunder. It was before my time. I got a bit of Lion, and Valiant I loved, and Hotspur and stuff like that in the 70s before 2000 AD came along. But I'm so pleased they're doing these books now in Treasure of British Comics. I'm going to get in more, and I will show more on my channel. I have such a love and a passion for old English comics, and it's like an area that if you know it, you know it. But it's nice to let other people discover that we had a comics industry that wasn't just 2000 AD or Battle Action. There was more there as well, and some of it was very, very weird. Talking of weird, one that is, and it's complete in one volume, is Dr Mesmer's Revenge. I'll read the synopsis. So it says, after several artifacts are stolen from his home, the mysterious Egyptologist Dr Mesmer resurrects a 5,000-year-old mummy called Angor, a pharaoh possessed with great mystical power. Together they set out to retrieve the missing items, bringing Tower. I'm gonna bring Tower. So I'm like, what's his name from? What's it called? Big Bang Theory. Bringing terror and destruction in their wake. So it's written by Donny Avenell, who did loads of British comics from wartime through to the 60s and 70s, and Spanish artist Carlos Cruz. The Spanish artists, what they used to get in the old British comics, they had Jorge Ortiz, Hugo Pratt, Carlos Cruz, and of course Carlos Esquera, who became a phenomenal superstar through 2000 AD. And this reads like a very camp Hammer film from the 50s, like the Mummy film from the 50s by Hammer. And it's just a delight. It's wonderful. What's good about it compared to American comics as well, because they've got restricted space, they've only got a few pages an issue, they've got to get to start the plot running. They don't spend about 15 pages to get the story started. They do it within a matter of a few panels. So just look at this art, it's absolutely beautiful. The just the detailing, how they do the faces, you can tell he's a robber. Just the face, he doesn't need to say anything. So this sets the scene. For some reason, there's a great big pyramid next to the normal houses. It's this eccentric Egyptologist who's made his house to look like that. So there's, as happenstance would have it, two policemen are walking by talking about it and watching in the bushes, which is great. You can see this this hand holding, what do they call those? Sap, isn't it? Holding a sap in his hand, listening to this conversation, and it's three burglars there who want to break into this house, which is owned by Dr Mesmer, who's an Egyptologist. He leaves in his car, so they break in, and they find loads of jewellery and gold, etc. But they also find this mummy. And Dr Mesmer, who's superb. This is what I love about old British comics. The villains were proper villains. I mean, look at his face. Dr Mesmer realises that somebody's broken into his house, so he wants to get revenge. So he casts a spell to wake up the mummy. Look at that. The panel work is just wonderful. And so the mummy comes alive. And the mummy has mystical powers. It can go through walls and stuff like this. And so it's out for revenge. It wants to know who's stolen its gold. And it's just walking through the village like this. And there's a couple who see this weird shape. They see the mummy. And it's outside this cinema, which is showing, by coincidence, a film called The Mummy from the Tombs. And so, to disguise itself, it stands next to the poster. So they walk right past thinking it's just a prop from the film. And so it follows the thieves into the cinema. And it's showing that film. And there's a scene with there's this god telling people to bow down. And so the mummy thinks it's talking to him. So the mummy bows down to it, starts worshipping it, and they make their escape. But oh, it's just wonderful. The dialogue, like I said, is cheesy as hell, but I'm loving it because in my head I can hear them like speaking with the old British clipped accents, what they used to have in the old 50s films. If you remember like the old Hammer Quatermass films, or like I said, the horror ones, what they did. But the artwork is just wonderful. The use of blacks and shading is just something you don't get in comics nowadays. I'd say the only person who does it now is the artist of Lawless, Phil Winslade, who I do recommend checking out. He does some wonderful, beautiful artwork. But the detailing is so, so good. That's all I've got up to so far, so I can't give you any more about the story, but it's just a beautiful, beautiful book. I'm getting my retro fix here, really am. I love modern comics, but I also get a huge buzz from something fun like this. You take it with a pinch of salt, and it's just fascinating how they can fit so much into a few pages each week. But the artwork is just absolutely divine. The next book I think we're going to get from this line of graphic novels is The Spider, who, even though it's called The Spider, I don't know why it's called The Spider. He's basically the world's greatest thief, but he ends up turning into a crime fighter. He's got a very distinctive look, black suit, very pointed face, widow's peak. He's got all this high-tech gear what he uses, so hopefully we get one of the first volume of that soon. And I want to get the Steel Claw and Robert Archie, Adam Eterno. There's loads, so I'm going to be featuring more and more of these. But if you want to know about the history of British comics, I recommend dipping into these, especially when they're on special offer. What is good about Rebellion, they love comics. The people who own it, it's owned by two brothers who, apart from being the history geeks as well, so they dress up as knights and stuff like that, and that's the code that they practice the Knights Code. The fascinating people are people who own Rebellion, but they love comics, so they bought the whole library of IPC back catalogue, and they're making sure that they're given the best presentation whatsoever what you can get with old strips. What I hate about American comics when they do black and white strips, a lot of them, not fancy graphics, but a lot of companies, they use glossy paper for black and white work, and it doesn't work. It pulls you out of the reading experience. This is on a very thick, slightly off-white paper, very matte paper, and so the artwork looks much more dramatic. You can see the line work much more, and I really recommend looking for books from this range. Another book I've got, which I'll show you from the range, just to give you an idea of what they do. is Carl the Viking, Volume 1. I'm going to get Volume 2 soon. This is quite a thick book. It's written by Don Lawrence, who did the Dragon Empire, and he did quite a bit of, I think he did some Dan Dare stuff as well. And Michael Moorcock comes on later on to write it. But this was from Lion Comic, from the 60s. And it is just a historical epic with a huge dose of fantasy thrown in. And the line work is just beautiful. So if you want something that's different from either from 2000 AD or from anything that's available in the American market, check them out. They do have their own, you can find them on 2000 AD's website, but they also have their own website, Treasure of British Comics. Just Google it. And it's fascinating. It's like a Pandora's box. Once you go in, you want to explore more. I'm doing a deep dive, and I'm really happy that I am. So hope that this video was okay. It's a bit random and all over the place, but I thought this was quite fitting, quite Halloweeny. Like I said, if you like good old-fashioned camp horror, can't get better than this. Okay, bye.